Hi, Scott Orlin with CINEMA-Magazin. The new film is called The Irishman, and I'm here with one of the stars, Robert De Niro. Mr. De Niro, it's been almost 25 years since you last worked with Martin Scorsese. Is it like riding a bike? You just immediately know what you're doing?
Yeah, with Marty, we're back to what we're used to doing with each other, our working habits, if you will, and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's great. It really is.
Does it almost feel like a reunion? There's such a familial sense of the people he works with the same actors.
Well, it is to have to work with Harvey, and with Joe, of course, Pesci and Al Pacino, and yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
I definitely was familiar with the Jimmy Hoffa story and kind of what happened, but this guy Frank, I never even heard his name mentioned before. How much research were you able to do into who he really was?
Well, I was not aware of him either, or anything, or even Russell Buffalino, Hoffa, of course, and when I read the Heard You Paint Houses, I said, this is a really great story. I know there's some talk about is it accurate and so on, and it's not about that. It's a story in itself. I mean, if you, I tell people that with Raging Bull, we did not necessarily a true story, but our interpretation of Jake's life. And you do what you call in acting, you make it your own or personalize it. And I think anybody that does anything of a book and a story about a book, a film, or whatever, you have to personalize it in the way that you understand it in order to make it special. So again, that doesn't mean that you distort things, but you try, and that could happen in the way you're telling the story, if you want to call that poetic license. I just think there's sometimes you can't avoid that. You're telling, as long as you're doing it sincerely and you believe it.
I loved how Martin Scorsese framed the picture around this this car trip.
Yes.
And I thought, boy, you really learn a lot about somebody when you're in the car with them for a long time.
Right.
What has been your most unique car trip you've ever had to take over?
Well, when I was a kid, I drove all over the country. When I was 17, across all over the whole country. That was pretty special for me.
And I'd love the car too, because I think my parents had something similar to that.
Yeah.
How much of a car guy are you?
I can drive.
But you don't remember anything from childhood? There was a particular car that was cool.
Yeah, and I drove. I drove when I was 17. I bought for $125 cash a 49 Olds that had hardly no miles on it, hardly any miles on it, and that's what I drove around in the country.
I mean, obviously, over the course of your career, you've had such an eclectic array of characters that you've done, but when you've been with Marty, a lot of them have been very New York-centric. Can you talk a little bit about, is there a New York sensibility? Is there something that you think you've tapped into?
No, I mean, I'm from New York. Marty's from New York. We're both, that's something that we have a feel for, we understand, we know. So why not do it? We can make it more special and have fun doing it.
You do it really well. Robert De Niro, thank you so much. This is Scott Orlin. Until next time.